All right, today we're going to jump into some of the biggest, toughest questions to get thrown at the Christian faith. We're going to dig into a text that provides some reasoned answers to these common intellectual objections. You know, the kinds of questions that a lot of us have probably thought about no matter what we believe.
And this is the big one, isn't it? It really gets to the heart of the whole thing, this tension we always hear about between faith and reason. Is belief something you just have to swallow without any evidence, or is there actually a case to be made? That's really the question that's going to frame our whole conversation today.
Okay, so let's dive right in with the first major challenge the source addresses, and it's a foundational one, the Bible itself. I mean, if the main text isn't reliable, then pretty much everything else built on it is on some seriously shaky ground, right?
You've probably heard this one a million times. It's a classic criticism. People point to what look like discrepancies in numbers and timelines or in the different gospel accounts, and they say, see, you just can't trust this thing. But the source we're looking at suggests that maybe we need to be a little more precise about what we actually mean by contradiction.
So, this is the key distinction the source makes. A real, logical contradiction is saying something like, there was only one angel at the tomb, and in the same breath saying, there were two angels at the tomb. That can't be. But a difference, well, that's just when two accounts have variations in the details they choose to include. Let's see how this works with a real example.
This is such a fascinating case. The source argues that Matthew mentioning one angel doesn't actually contradict John mentioning two. Why? Because if there were two, then there is definitely at least one. It's not a logical impossibility. The argument is that these kinds of variations are exactly what you'd expect from different eyewitnesses describing a chaotic event. In fact, it could even be a sign of authenticity. It shows they weren't just all in a room copying from the same script.
All right, let's move on to the second big challenge. This one is a really common and pretty sensitive topic in our modern world. The simple fact that there are so many different religions out there.
And you can see why this objection hits home for a lot of people. The idea that any one religion has the exclusive path to God, well, it can come across as arrogant or really narrow-minded, especially when you see so many sincere, good people in other faiths all over the world.
So this is how the source breaks down its counterargument. It points out that while, a lot of religions have similar moral codes, like be nice to each other, their core foundational claims are often mutually exclusive. They just can't all be true at the same time. For example, Christianity's central claim is that Jesus was crucified and resurrected. Islam's central claim is that he was a great prophet who was not crucified. Both can't be true. They're fundamentally different claims.
And the source uses a pretty clever analogy here. Think about counterfeit money. The fact that fake $20 bills exist doesn't prove that real $20 bills don't exist. In fact, it's the opposite. The counterfeit only makes sense if there's a real, genuine article to copy. The argument is that in the same way, the existence of many different beliefs doesn't automatically mean that one of them can't be the real deal.
Okay, let's get into our third and final challenge. And this is a heavy one. It's about history, and specifically, the actions of people and institutions who have called themselves Christian over the centuries.
This is a really serious charge and a powerful one. You hear about things like the Crusades, the Inquisition, the wars of religion, and it's easy to draw the conclusion that religion itself, and maybe Christianity in particular, is one of the main drivers of conflict and human suffering.
So, to address this, the source doesn't just give an opinion, it turns to the data. It points to the Encyclopedia of Wars, which is this massive 3-volume work that analyzed nearly 1,800 historical conflicts to figure out what caused them. And their conclusion, as you can see here, is that less than 7% of all those wars were primarily religious in nature. The vast majority were fought for totally secular reasons: land, power, resources, you name it.
Then the source flips the script. It points to the absolutely staggering death tolls from democide, that's death by government, in the 20th century, all under regimes that were explicitly non-religious and atheistic. The numbers are just astronomical. So the argument here is that the real root cause of this kind of violence isn't faith or a lack of faith. It's what the researcher R.J. Rummel called a plague of power, that universal human hunger for control that can hide behind any ideology, whether it's religious or secular.
So, we've walked through these three huge objections: the text, the beliefs, and the history. After looking at how the source responds to each one, where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway?
And this really gets to the heart of the source's whole argument. The picture it's painting is that Christian faith isn't meant to be a blind leap in the dark. Instead, it's presented as a reasoned trust,
A worldview that, it argues, can not only withstand these tough intellectual questions, but actually offers a coherent framework of answers. The goal is to show faith as a defensible position, not an irrational one.
So, we've explored how this source tackles some of Christianity's toughest critiques. Now, whether you find these answers compelling or not, the one thing it shows is that these objections have been taken very seriously. And really, that just leaves us with one final thing to think about. What questions does this leave for you?